Guess who got COVID? I'm laughing because I'm in pain. First, above everything, I'm going to apologize for my voice or lack of voice, depending how this episode goes. I got COVID I don't know when I'm posting this, but I got COVID at one point. And so that's why there was not an episode last week. Yeah. But all in all, I'm feeling better now. When I'm recording this, I still have to be masking. My voice is kind of here, kind of gone. We're figuring it out. And I am still feeling a little bit dizzy, but it's going away. I was a little worried I got a sinus infection there for a moment, but I think it's definitely not a sinus infection at this point. So we're going to survive. I got COVID after the first week of classes, actually halfway through the first week of classes, which was great for me in terms of getting on the schedule with things. Took a little bit of a refocusing to figure that out, but I'm doing well, and I actually am really grateful for the break that I had, even though it hit me hard. Once I started to feel better, it was really a break that I needed. So anyways, today we are talking all about FOMO, fear of missing out, if you haven't heard of that before, and how spending time alone is actually really good for you and really beneficial. Now, before I say any of this, I'm going to recognize the fact that I am an introvert. I love being alone. I'm a homebody. My ideal night, like Saturday night, is basically let me sit in my room in my apartment with a show, my cat, a nice drink. That's it. Maybe a few friends, but basically by myself. I love being alone. I love my nights in. I love all of that. That's just how I am. All this said, I also love being around people. And so whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, this episode applies to you. So do not click away because I do think it's important that, I'm an introvert, more so an introvert than an extrovert. But if I don't have social interaction, I also start to feel drained. I don't think it's just one or other. I think that some people can be very introverted or very extroverted, but I think that we all need a little bit of both because it's really important for our mind, body, and our soul. So today I'm talking a little bit about the FOMO piece of it because I think we've all felt that before. I definitely have. FOMO is real. FOMO is really hard to get over. And just kind of, I'd rather talk about my experience and what I've learned and how I got there rather than giving you a step-by-step, this is how you get over it, because it's different for everyone. It's different for, me versus the person next to me. It's different for each individual case, and in order to actually be able to kind of get over that FOMO, you have to kind of learn what's right for you. How are you going to get over it? But I do have some just helpful tips in general. Give me a second. Need to take a break. Getting dizzy. So for me, when I don't spend time alone, I'm able to tell very quickly that I need my alone time, right? And that's because I am an introvert. But the way that I notice that I need some time alone can be similar for everyone. There's going to be some similarities, some differences, but these are things that can be a telltale sign, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, that you might need some alone time, or just benefits of having alone time in general. When I don't have my alone time, when I'm not spending nights in, I tend to feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, I feel like life is hanging on by a thread, and it gets to the point where it's really hard for me to get up in the morning and get out of bed. This happens very quickly for me if I don't have time to myself pretty much every day, because I do need that so much more than, say, extroverts. But it is something that if you just generally in life feel like you're kind of hanging on by a thread, you're kind of feeling like you don't really have time to figure things out and everything's just happening too fast, it might mean that you just need a night in or a few nights in to take care of yourself, to get to learn about yourself and all of that. And spending time alone is really important. But the trick with spending time alone is that we end up getting FOMO. Why is that? I think that life can be so fast paced in our, our current day life. Everything that we do is so fast paced. There's always stuff going on. I was thinking about this actually. I was helping orientation for new students on my campus, and I started thinking about this because there were a lot of people who were getting a lot of FOMO, right? And one of the things that I thought about was me when I was first starting my university, and I remember getting a lot of FOMO and realizing, wait a second, when you think of just a university as an institution, you think of the fact that they are there to provide basically everything for you, especially if you're living on campus. They are there for you to sleep, to eat, to do your free time, to do your classes. Every single thing is basically on campus at this point. So they need to be keeping you engaged all the time, or they need to have something going on all the time because they need to give you those opportunities, right? In real life, there's always something that you can do. You can maybe go walk to a park or something, but at a college campus, you might not have that opportunity all the time, and they want to keep students engaged. They want to be teaching them new things. So for a university, there are things going on every single time of the day, it seems like. But their goal is to not, it's not to have you go to every single one of those things. Their goal is to have those things going on at all times so that students don't get bored or don't, end up complaining about it. But it's not humanly possible to go to every single one of those things because there's how many students. Not everyone's going to have the same routine, which means they need to have something going on at every single time. So everyone has the opportunity to be doing something, especially during orientation week, but they don't want you doing every single thing because that's going to overwhelm you. It's going to stress you out. And that's something that I feel like people don't put a place, they don't place that much stress on the fact that you don't need to go to everything. I feel like orientation week in university itself is just very you have to, get in it, just figure it all out, go to everything, have fun, make your new best friends, stuff like that. And well, it is like that for someone, for some people. It's not for everyone. And that's the way that it is in life too. If you enjoy going out and doing things, that's great. But it is important to not always feel like you have to be doing that. And that's, I think, where the line between healthy, taking care of yourself is, and the FOMO. And I think it is that, we live in a time that we are so engaged. There's always something going on around us. And even if there's not, an event going on, you always have your phone that you can just look at. My phone is, okay, actually, I don't know where it is right now, but your phone is always there. You can always be looking at it and keeping your mind engaged. And that's not really how the human mind is supposed to work. I mean, yes, you are supposed to be stimulating your mind, but you're also supposed to be giving it rest. And that doesn't just mean sleep. That means during your day, things like sitting down and spending time with yourself, things like getting to know yourself, things like taking a break. Taking a break is not, hey, I'm going to go home and scroll on Instagram. Taking a break is, hey, I'm going to go home and do something that is calming and relieves my stress and is offline, and something like that. I mean, it's important to be able to have these habits when you need them and when you want them. If you want to be going out to do something, what's stopping you, right? If you actually want to be going out to do something, then do it. But if you have obligations to be doing something else or you don't want to, then why is it that we feel that fear of missing out on something. I think that we are in a day and age that it is so easy to feel like we are falling behind because everyone is go, go, go. There's always more things to do. And so I'm going to use an example, social media. I'm going to use social media as an example for this. And I'm kind of just like making this up in my mind. Like I'm just come on this path with me, you guys. How do I say this right? I don't have social media on my phone. I've talked about that before. A lot of you all know that. I don't have social media on my phone because I found myself scrolling all the time on social media, and especially working online all the time. I have like multiple jobs now that actually involve me being in charge of publicity and being on social media. I cannot have social media on my phone because it ends up stressing me out too much. Making the decision to take social media off my phone was so hard for me. And partly because I was kind of addicted to it, right? But mainly because I was scared of what I would be missing out on. I was really nervous about like, oh, hey, I had a lot of FOMO. I was like, okay, if I don't have social media on my phone, I'm not going to be able to understand the people my age because everyone's using their new like inside jokes and stuff, and I won't know any of it, or I won't be up to date on political news. I won't be up to date on anything that people think that I should be up to date on, celebrities, I don't know, everything, right? And so when I deleted social media, I was actually really, really shocked because that didn't end up changing very much. Or if it did, I actually kind of felt at peace with it because the benefits of taking care of myself ended up being like they outweighed the cons of not having social media, if that makes sense. I hope people are following here. And so just with like that, in real life, when you're having FOMO of not going to something or of, having a prior obligation so you can't go to that really fun party you want to go to or something, thinking about it like that has at least helped me in life, and I think can be really helpful for a lot of people, because if you are actively putting an intention on it of like, okay, I'm not going because I am putting this intention to do this instead, then hopefully the pros of that intention of what you are doing are going to outweigh the cons of not going, right? If you have friends who are like, if you don't go to this, then we're not going to be friends with you anymore. That's a big con, right? Because then you're not going to have your friends. But in reality, should you have those friends then? If that's there, if it's that conditional, your friendship is that conditional. So, really, what are you missing out on? Maybe you're missing out on some of the memories, some of the inside jokes that come from that. But I feel like overall peace, internal peace, being able to do what's best for yourself, I feel like that outweighs it, right? At least for me. And that's my opinion. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Sometimes I decide, hey, maybe I do want to go out. Maybe on this given day, going out does outweigh the cons of not saying it, right? Like maybe those cons do outweigh it, right? So it depends on each thing. And I think that is the important thing, is when you are choosing to stay in or choosing to go out, to really think about it in terms of intention, in terms of why is it that I'm doing this, right? If you're not going because you're tired, that's a valid excuse. But then instead of maybe sitting at home and scrolling, or sitting at home and ruminating, or sitting at home and, just having some maybe not great habits, use that time to sit at home and focus on, cultivating really good habits. Because then it's a way that, you are able to be very happy and wake up the next morning being like, hey, I really feel like I did something with my night. I'm really happy with it. And suddenly, if you were to trade that for something else, it's a little bit harder to be like, yeah, I would, like, wait, maybe I wouldn't in this case. Maybe I enjoyed that, actually. And I'm not saying you have to always stay in, right? But if there's a time that you want to stay in, like I have seen that so many people, it feels like it's really hard for people to, myself included, to be like, they recognize that, hey, I'm drained, I need rest. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to miss out. So I think that's the thing is I think that as humans, we are able to recognize when we need rest and when we're drained, but it's that fear of missing out that stops us from actually taking that step. And then if we do take that step, then we have that fear the entire time we're there and like taking care of ourselves and resting, that we don't actually pay attention and we don't actually rest because the entire time we're just ruminating on what am I missing out. So by making a plan of like, okay, I need a rest, so what is my plan on how I'm going to rest? I feel like that's really important. I feel like if you are feeling a little bit of FOMO about something, make a plan about it. And another thing is that if you're staying in or you're spending time alone, you are able to put attention towards it and really get to know yourself, right? And this is kind of going on to a different aspect of the idea here, is that your reality is based on you. Your reality is the shape of your mind. Your reality is the shape of what you put into it. I had a professor once in one of my introduction to neuroscience courses. And this is my first year at university, and he sat us down and he said, what is the shape of your reality? And we were all like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? And he put up a giant picture of his face on the big screen. And he said, this is the shape of my reality. And we were like, wait, what? He said, my reality is based completely on me. And that was kind of like a life changer for me, because the reality is we interpret everything based on the way that our mind interprets it. And how do we impact the way our mind interprets things? By taking care of it, by taking care of our body, and by taking care of our soul. By taking care of ourselves, we are changing the way, like we are determining the way that we see the rest of the world, right? You always hear the control what you can, not what you can't. What you can control is you. What you can control is the way that you see things, the way that you interpret things. And so when you are taking this time to spend alone, to really be focusing on yourself, to really be paying attention to yourself, to really be working on yourself, all of a sudden, you are more comfortable with yourself. You have less insecurities. And when you control what you can control, the things around you that you can't control feel less intense. They don't go away, but they feel less intense. So when you find out the next day that, oh, all of my friends have this inside joke, something amazing happened and I missed out on it, you couldn't control that it happened the one night that you missed out on it, the one night that you weren't there. You couldn't control that it happened then. You can't control that they're talking about it, right? All of these different things. And when you can control what's internal, when you spend that time controlling what's internal, controlling, taking care, and I don't want to say controlling in terms of like, I'm going to control my, like, I say it in terms of like taking care of yourself, doing what you can to make things easier on yourself. All of a sudden, the rest of the world feels less intense. All of the negative emotions feel less intense. And so that FOMO, with time, it doesn't happen overnight, but with time, at least for me, and I feel like in just a general aspect, will begin to decrease. And that feeling of FOMO won't have as much intensity until one day you realize you don't get FOMO very often anymore. I will see you all next time. This is just my own personal experience. Make sure to subscribe either on the YouTube or on the podcast, Spotify, wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, and I'll see you next time.